London, 1483. The Tower of London casts its long shadow over the city. Behind its high stone walls, two young boys, heirs to the throne of England, laugh and play. They are surrounded by guards, servants, and tutors. It should be the safest place in the kingdom. And then, they disappear. No fanfare, no announcement, just silence. For over 500 years, their fate has remained one of history's most chilling mysteries. Were they murdered? Hidden? Did one of them escape? This is the real story of Edward and Richard, the princes in the tower, and the ruthless power struggle that may have sealed their doom. Edward V was just 12 years old. His little brother, Richard of Shrewsbury, was only 9. Sons of King Edward IV and Queen Elizabeth Woodville, they were born into one of England's most powerful families during one of its most unstable eras, the Wars of the Roses. Their father, Edward IV, had seized the throne for the House of York and held it against fierce opposition. But in April 1483, he died suddenly. Some say of illness, others hint at poison or overindulgence, leaving young Edward as king in name, but far too young to rule. His mother, Elizabeth Woodville, wanted her son to be crowned quickly to secure the family's power. But many in the nobility distrusted the Woodvilles, seeing them as social climbers who had taken too much influence under Edward IV. Among their biggest critics, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, young Edward's uncle. Gloucester was named Lord Protector in Edward IV's will. That meant he had legal guardianship over the new boy king. He acted swiftly. He intercepted Edward V on his journey to London and took him, gently at first, to the Tower. It wasn't unusual. The Tower was traditionally where monarchs stayed before their coronations, but what followed was anything but traditional. Let's pause here, because this is where things start to take a darker turn. Picture a 12-year-old boy who just lost his father, suddenly taken away from his entourage and placed in a massive fortress under the authority of a man he barely knew. That's not protection, that's a cage. Soon after Edward was placed in the Tower, Richard began consolidating his power. He arrested and executed 2 of Edward's closest advisors, Earl Rivers, the boy's uncle on his mother's side, and Lord Grey, his half-brother. Both were accused of treason, but it looked more like a calculated move to eliminate the Woodville influence. Elizabeth Woodville fled with her remaining children to sanctuary at Westminster Abbey. But eventually, under pressure and perhaps false promises, she agreed to release Edward's younger brother, Richard, Duke of York, so he could join the king in the Tower. And that's when the world stopped seeing them. Imagine this: 2 boys locked away in stone chambers, the echo of their footsteps the only sound in those long corridors. Their world, once filled with tutors, laughter, and royal privilege, was reduced to silence and suspicion. Meanwhile, Richard of Gloucester made a stunning move. He claimed that his nephews were illegitimate. A clergyman named Bishop Stillington testified that Edward IV had been pre-contracted to marry another woman before he wed Elizabeth Woodville, making their children, Edward V and his siblings, illegitimate by church law. This allowed Richard to claim the throne for himself. Parliament passed the Titulus Regius, officially disinheriting the princes. On July 6, 1483, Richard was crowned King Richard III. The princes were never seen in public again. At first, there were reports of the boys being seen occasionally within the Tower grounds. Some said they were spotted playing, others that they were in good health. But by late summer, August 1483, they vanished entirely from public view. No official statement was issued. There was no confirmation of their status. The tower, once a royal residence, had become a tomb of silence. What might those final days have looked like? Maybe Edward tried to stay strong for his younger brother. Maybe they whispered through the dark, wondering why no one had come. Maybe they thought they'd be rescued, but the rescue never came. Rumors began to swirl that the boys had been murdered. Some claimed they were smothered in their sleep. Others whispered they had been stabbed or poisoned. But no proof surfaced. No graves were discovered. No confessions were made. In an era when executions were public and political enemies were paraded through the streets, the silence surrounding the prince's fate was deafening. Their disappearance wasn't just a family tragedy, it was a political earthquake. Many historians believe that Richard III ordered the murders. He had both the motive and the means. With the boys gone, his claim to the throne was uncontested. But killing 2 children, even in medieval England, it was an act that would stain a king's name forever. And there was never any direct evidence linking Richard to the crime. Others believe the princes may have been killed without Richard's knowledge, perhaps by one of his loyal supporters, such as Sir James Tyrrell, seeking to win favor or eliminate a threat. Tyrrell later confessed under torture, but his statement is unreliable, and no bodies were found to confirm it. There's also the theory that they survived beyond Richard's reign. After Richard III's death in 1485 at the Battle of Bosworth, Henry Tudor took the crown as Henry VII. If the boys were still alive, they posed a threat to his rule. Could he have had them killed in secret? Then came the curious case of Perkin Warbeck. In the 1490s, he appeared in Europe claiming to be Prince Richard, the younger of the 2 lost boys. He was welcomed by royal courts across the continent and even led a failed invasion of England. Henry VII eventually captured him and had him executed. But the resemblance and knowledge Warbeck displayed left some wondering. Could he have been telling the truth? Warbeck's story isn't just a footnote. It's a window into how desperate England was for answers. His very existence relit the fire of the prince's mystery. And the fact that so many believed him, perhaps even wanted to believe, says something deeper. Maybe people never truly trusted the official story. In 1674, workers demolishing a staircase in the tower discovered a wooden chest beneath the rubble. Inside were 2 small skeletons. They were moved to Westminster Abbey and buried under a marble slab. For centuries, they were believed to be the missing princes, but no DNA testing has been allowed. And in 2024, the mystery deepened. A researcher at the National Archives uncovered a document written by someone in Richard III's household, hinting that the boy's disappearance may have been carried out under someone's private orders. Perhaps Richard didn't know. Perhaps he did. The document raised more questions than answers. The mystery of the princes in the tower has captivated historians, playwrights, and conspiracy theorists for centuries. William Shakespeare portrayed Richard III as a hunchbacked monster who would stop at nothing for the crown, including murdering his own nephews. But Shakespeare was writing under the Tudor regime, and his work served their political narrative. Modern historians have taken a closer look. Some argue Richard was no saint, but not the villain he was made out to be. Others believe he was every bit the calculating usurper his enemies claimed. What we know for sure is this: 2 boys entered the Tower of London in 1483. They were never seen again, and their absence shaped the course of English history. Had Edward V become king, the Wars of the Roses might have ended differently. The Tudors might never have risen. The English Reformation, Henry VIII's 6 wives, Elizabeth I's golden age, none of it might have happened. All because of a disappearance in the dark corners of a stone fortress. So much blood has been spilled in the name of power, but it's the blood that vanished without a trace, that still whispers through the halls of the tower. So what do you think happened to the princes in the tower? Were they victims of a ruthless uncle, pawns in a larger game of power, or did one of them escape to write a secret history no one ever uncovered? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I dive into strange, dark, and mysterious stories from history every week. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. Also, don't forget to check out our Bizarre Lunchtime Tales playlist. Until next time, stay curious.